Well, hello everybody and Happy New Year. Kathy's got the fireworks. I've got the new calendar up. Kathy and I both have one of these. I got them from the UK and they're gorgeous. Anyway, um, so I'm Louise Edington, Cosmic Owl Astrology. I have a membership. I have my website. I offer consultations, but I'm also putting together a an immersion workshop on a weekend built on my series book. So watch this space for information about that. It'll be like two almost 4 days with a lot of shamanic work. We're looking at your personal charts, all those things, but I haven't got that ready to put out there yet. So just watch this space, Kathy.
Oh, hi, I'm Kathy Beal. My YouTube channel is Professional Aquarian. My website is empowermentunlimited.net. I have every imaginable forecast. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Kathy Beal, where I have premiering tomorrow my tarot overview for the year using the 12 house astrological system. That's also available in my shop. And if you're in the $5 tier or up on my Patreon, you get a nice discount if you want to order one. It's a weirdly popular thing. I have run the group, the Astro Insight Lounge on Facebook, where we talk about astrology in the news, how things are playing out. It is a private group. You have to ask for permission to join, and it is important to agree to the group rules or you won't get in. People haven't been doing that lately, so they've been bumped out. But the one thing I want to alert you to is on Wednesday, the 7th, next week, Donna Woodwell and I are hosting our annual Write Your Story workshop for the year. You don't have to understand much astrology at all, or even any. We guide you through a workbook that we have compiled showing where all the big planetary, outer planet, big planetary shifts are occurring in your chart and where the complications are, the eclipses, the Venus retrograde, and giving you keywords and prompts. By the end of it, you can actually come up with your own statement of what you want to experience this year. It's a write your own adventure kind of thing, or Mad Libs. And it's a remarkably nominal fee. It's $27. It's live online on Wednesday, the 7th. There's an orange banner across my website, empowermentunlimited.net, that has a clickable link. People don't seem to understand that where there's an underline and you touch it, it goes to a page, but I am now saying that exactly. And it's recorded. If you can't do it live, you can watch it as many times as you want for the rest of the year. And we'll have a follow up session in 2 weeks to go over people's questions. End of advert.
And I should have said my website is my name, louiseeddington.com, because
Mm-hmm.
some of you are watching on Cassie's channel.
Right.
And it's Cosmic Owl Astrology everywhere on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Substack. I write on there too. So come and join me in those places. So, yay. And we're going to go to the news first. This probably won't be the longest of our course because we're still, recovering from the holidays and got to get back to it. Got work to do, but
Well,
we've got some things to talk about, so we wanted to come
right,
on.
number of
Yeah.
things. So I'm just easing into examples of how news events, news items have been playing out our astrological forecasts. And there's a pair of them that happened that were just coming off that took me by surprise, and they fit perfectly. Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius squared Neptune in Pisces. It completed the square the morning in the morning of January 1st. And as the square was building, two announcements came out involving mail service, things going through the air. One of them was Denmark completely discontinued its postal service. No more
Oh,
postal delivery in Denmark. So it absolutely
wow.
dissolved, went away as Mercury, communication planet, made its
Wow.
last hard aspect to Neptune and Pisces for our lives. Meanwhile, in the United States, a new rule came into being very quietly without announcement, and it has a massive impact on healthcare, and voting. So pay attention, people. The Postal Service has redefined when an item is postmarked. It no longer is postmarked when you drop it in the box and the people in the post office take it out. The postmark is the date that it is marked at the mail sorting facility. So, absolute confusion and uncertainty. You have no way of knowing Mercury squaring Neptune in Pisces when this is going to happen. So, just put in the back of your head, if you need to file a medical claim that has a deadline, if you need to file a medical appeal that has a deadline, anything with a deadline, if you are voting by mail, you must go into the either put it way like a week early, or go into, I wouldn't even trust that, go into the post office and request a hand stamp in front of you right then for the postmark.
Or deliver
And
it to a ballot, an actual voting center or whatever.
oh, well,
Yeah.
that too. But if
Yeah.
you're, but like if you're, if you're disputing Medicare denying a claim,
Yeah. Oh,
which is going
yeah.
to be
Yeah. Yeah.
happening in about
Oh,
six
I was
states.
only talking about the ballots. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Definitely.
AI
Mm.
is now being rolled out to evaluate the need for medical procedures in six states. I'm one of them. So when you get that denied, you're going to want to uh, not just drop it in the box. Okay. The other The other big area has to do
Mm.
with Saturn in Pisces, which for weeks now has been sitting at 25 degrees Pisces. And only now, as we are recording this on January 2nd, now it's moving off that degree, but it's been there just kind of building and building and building. And it's been in an exact trine
Mm.
with Venus, money, and women in Trump's chart, 11th house of groups, organizations, and it's also conjunct Saturn. So, what has happened with Saturn building up, Saturn in the sky building up its last direct current? Two big things. One of them being another huge, huge drop of files
Mhm.
by the House Oversight Dems, completely implicating the person sitting on Pennsylvania Avenue, with right smack in the middle of procurement and illegal acts and sexual assault, blah, blah, blah. So,
Mhm.
complete avalanche of information about that. And then on New Year's Eve, late in the day, as Mercury was moving into its square with Neptune, in an attempt maybe to diffuse the impact of this, the House, I think it's Oversight Committee, released the transcripts, actually the transcripts and the video of Special Counsel Jack Smith's testimony. And thanks to the internet, nothing ever just goes completely buried. And in this, Jack Smith said outright that you know who was the most culpable person in the January 6th insurrection, and that his campaign paid for a lot of it. And there were also statements made about various boxes of documents that got moved to
Mhm.
Lago. So we now have massive amounts of, sorry, my system has decided it wants to do things. So that's not stopping. That's not stopping.
No.
And it's come out. It's voluminous. Watch what happens here.
And um, well, I was going to say something there. Sorry, I got distracted as well by my system. But no, it's not going away for sure. We're going to look at Jack Smith's chart
Hmm.
briefly to show how the astrology has activated him. We don't have a time of birth. Do you want to start there with him?
Yes, let's
Yeah.
start with him
But we're going
because
to
there.
be pretty focused on just this week's astrology because it's huge. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
Oh, no, no, because there
Mm,
are, as I said, that Saturn has just now started moving forward, and
mm, yeah.
Uranus is moving
Mm,
off of the degree where it's been, and it's going to sit in a
hmm
place for a long time, activating. Both of these are
hmm
activating Jack's chart.
They are. And before I share the chart, I'm just going to say we're recording this on the 2nd. We have a Cancer full moon tomorrow. And I'm not going to share the charts to say this because I don't want people to get brain fried. There is a thing called planets being out of bounds. When they are 23 degrees 27 minutes off the ecliptic, which is the path of the sun from our perspective, that it travels around the Earth, they are called out of bounds. They can be either above the ecliptic or below, so north or south. And currently, right now, and on the full moon, we have Mercury, Venus, and Mars out of bounds, and the moon is out of bounds for this full moon as well. And I cannot tell you how rare this is. And on a full moon, I've actually heard a couple of astrologers say it hasn't happened since 1936, but I actually couldn't replicate it in 1936, even with a full moon as well that's out of bounds. And full moon energy is um, heightened anyway. And what that means with planets are out of bounds is they are acting beyond the norm. Everything is like extreme. Okay, how would you describe out of bounds
Yeah,
even more?
it's cartoonishly
Mm,
large. It's as
mm,
if everybody is getting pumped up by Jupiter. It's a similar
mm-hmm.
impact, like supersized. That's a good
Yeah,
way of looking at it.
it is.
Supersized, and keep in
Mm,
mind that this full moon is in the
mm,
sign of Cancer, which is the home of the moon. So emotions
mm-hmm.
are at their biggest
And
in this.
Jupiter is retrograde in Cancer and at its closest point to Earth. I think it was actually today that it's at closest, but pretty much all the moment, which also is the most kind of potent part of the retrograde, which basically happens when it's opposing the sun for the slower moving planets. And all these energies are so concentrated. So we're going to look a little bit more about that, but both of us, as usual, have done our other videos about just those energies. But let's start with Jack, right? Okay. So we'll just look at his chart first of all. We do not have a time of birth, as I mentioned. We have looked at him in the past. He's a Gemini, and I think that really shows so many Geminis in the news. But I'm going to put just the full moon chart around it, and this really refers a lot to the Saturn and Neptune because Saturn is now at the degree of his North Node, okay, opposing his Jupiter and obviously his South Node. Neptune is opposing his Uranus, and I've realized I forgot to take some of my extras out, so let me do that. Sorry, so it's a bit less cluttered. Apologies.
So
I got a
this
bit
is
carried
him
away.
with with
Mm-hmm.
with Saturn on his north node while you're clearing that out.
Mm,
Saturn on his north node is it's like a time for him to step into responsibility and maturity and and
mm,
wisdom. And
mm-hmm,
when Saturn's in your 10th house, which is what it is in his solar 10th, you
mm-hmm,
either really solidify your reputation and your place in the world, or it crumbles under you completely
mm,
if you've been acting outside of integrity. And with
mm-hmm,
Neptune opposite as well, opposite Uranus, it's showing he I don't know. I think it's like a spiritual mission almost. It's his
mm,
calling. And you can see that with Saturn on his North Node as well. This is
mm-hmm,
his calling to uh, dissolve, show, reveal the disruptive influence in the homeland.
mm-hmm. I agree for sure. And it's also got an element that Saturn up there of apparently I didn't watch the testimony, I just saw a clip of it, but it was very Saturnian in nature. It
Mhm.
was very deliberate, very detailed. There was no drama, no nothing.
No
That's
emotion.
very Saturnian, right? Yeah, as well. And shout out to Ceres. She's on Chiron in his chart as well. That's kind of him, kind of speaking to the healing that's needed, kind of bringing it out, being very direct about it. But the full moon as well is in play on his asteroid Juno, which is sacred contracts and also kind of women and children and all our relationships with everything, all that is. And this is where all this pile up of out of bounds planets is really in his seventh house and moving into his eighth house. So he's determined to be heard and to say this is what's really happening, the truth. I think so. Yeah.
What's going on with the nodes also speaks to that.
Mm,
The node uh, at the full moon, the North Node in his
mm,
solar house, ninth house of um, the legal system, the North Node
mm-hmm,
is at 10 Pisces, but he testified on December 19th, and the node
mm-hmm,
was further back in
mm,
the sign at that point. It was around 13, which was squaring his Nessus and Sun.
mm,
So it basically made a what's called a T square
mm-hmm.
of the past and the future, both pushing at him and tele and Nessus again. Louise
Mm.
means.
Well, it reveals toxins. It's kind of like the buck
Mhm.
stops here. It's like, we start to see the abuses of power and toxins with Nessus. So yeah.
So that would
Mm-hmm,
have corresponded with when he actually
mm-hmm,
did testify
mm,
in front of the House. It was part of what he it's part of what he came in to do. We've been
mm.
saying his work hasn't been over, and I think it still isn't.
Nope, I
Um,
think so. No.
uh,
There's lots of other aspects, but do you mind if I just push it forward to the Mars um,
oh, go
Sun
ahead,
Cazimi?
go ahead.
Because that's opposing his Vesta, Vesta in the collective chart is really kind of like the state. So he that's another kind of activation, but it's astounding to me, this pile up. So on the 19th, we've just had Venus, this new star point, the new Cazimi of Venus and the Sun at 16 Capricorn. But then on the 9th, we have Mars conjunct the Sun, so another Cazimi. Well, it's not conjunct, opposing, sorry, it's a quincunx, which is like, an adjustment of him speaking out kind of thing. This is, I think this pile up. And also in his solar eighth house, that's the place of secrets and dirt and things people don't want to speak about, right?
Oh,
Amongst other
absolutely.
things. Amongst other things. mm,
Um, Also, this let's see.
mm. This lineup is explosive. I do want to mention as well, though, just to get my pointer back on, because I pointed at Vesta and it's hidden. But this lineup is almost exactly opposing Jupiter, which, as we mentioned, is closest to Earth um, right now and very potent and reviewing things. And just Jupiter, in many ways, is kind of the prosecutor, the judge. So, mm.
Notice also that Saturn, transiting Saturn up there at 26 Pisces on his North Node,
mm.
26 Pisces, way out in public, is in an open current, an unbroken flow, a trine to his
Oh,
Neptune in the sixth.
mm. Saw it as
Um,
soon as you said it. I was like, oh, yeah. Mm.
what what I sense from uh, a lot of all this Capricorn stuff in the eighth,
Mm.
opposing Jupiter in the second, I suspect there will be really big attacks on him
Oh, oh, I'm
next
sure. And
week, like
he said
mind-blowing
it, didn't
ones.
he?
Yeah,
He said
yeah,
it. He expects it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Awful. Yeah, because I think he's just doing his job, basically.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I suspect there probably will be the powers that be are going to, yeah. So I think we all have to kind of do Jack Smith a favor and actually go and read his report, and not just the very highlights. I'm going to sit down and read the whole thing now the holidays are over, or listen to it or whatever. hmm So, yeah, so he's in the news again because of the astrology. There you go.
There you go.
Wonderful. So I think can we finish on the US chart?
Yes,
Is that all right? I'd just like to
sure.
give people a little bit of an uplift as well. Because Zoran Mamdani was sworn in by Bernie Sanders, inaugurated. Well, he was sworn in actually by Letitia James right after midnight, and then inaugurated by Bernie Sanders yesterday. And I'm putting him up really as an example of a bigger shift, I feel, and how the aspects are playing out for that. So let me get back to that full moon. Okay. Because I watch a lot of kind of underlying things, and I follow a couple of people that have said they're working on the ground in red states, and they say that the shift is enormous. Magazine Trouble was one kind of thing. And I just see his election as indicative of this collective shift. Well, he was born and we have a time of birth. So he was born in 1991 with this Uranus Neptune conjunction, but it's on his North Node as well. And this full moon is exactly on his nodes, which is his purpose in life, his path in life, really. And I always see the Uranus Neptune conjunction as quite revolutionary, a big shift, don't you? Mm-hmm.
Oh, I agree, but there's also
Mm-hmm.
like it's not power for the sake of power.
No.
Uh, spiritual doesn't seem quite right. There's a greater
Mm-hmm.
purpose underpinning to everything, and it
Mm-hmm.
does involve shaking the institutions up and dissolving things and doing
Mm.
them differently.
Yes. I completely agree. This is not a power grab. This is like really, yeah, about a sense of purpose for bringing the change for the people, which is why, he had Bernie inaugurate him and things like that. And his speech was amazing. If anybody didn't listen to it, and so was Bernie's. I love Bernie. Because
Well,
Bernie's chart is also being hit by the eclipses at the moment and stuff because he's a Virgo and he's got a lot in Virgo. So, mm-hmm.
if you look
Mm-hmm.
up at the top of the chart, Uranus at 27 Taurus in the
Mm-hmm.
10th house, that's doing things very, very differently. Uranus is going to sit at 27 degrees until the middle of March. So the first
Mm-hmm.
2.5 months of his administration will be very, well, disruptive,
Mm-hmm.
breaking from the past. One of the first things he did was revoke every executive order signed by the prior mayor from the date of the mayor's indictment
Mm-hmm.
on. Um, Remind everybody what the
Yeah.
centaur is that it's right on top of.
Well, this is actually asteroid, but all
Oh,
these
it's asteroid. Okay.
definitions are a bit wobbly. I usually take this out, so obviously was meant to leave this in. This is
Mhm.
Hygeia, and this is preventative health. And I always see Taurus as very much about our core values in many ways. And at the top of his chart, I think he's talking about getting back to some core values. So, mhm. So
And
I think
Saturn,
it's and
transiting Saturn.
Ceres is opposing it too.
Well, transiting Saturn
Mm.
is trining his series. It's in the eighth house
Mm-hmm.
of joint resources. That's also all
Mm-hmm.
of the, I mean, he's the mayor in the financial capital of the
Mm.
US.
Mm.
And Saturn, as it moves out of Aries, out of Pisces, is going to be trining his Igea. I mean, sextiling his Igea, like making things
Mm.
possible,
Yeah.
opening doors. It might
He's
not be
got.
as just people seem to be so scared of what he's going to do. It might
Oh,
not be as disruptive as the noise is.
I think if people are scared of is what he's going to do, I think it would be good to go and listen to both Bernie's speech and his speech because Bernie. I love how Bernie laid out why um, his Mamdani's proposals would be good for the people of New York, not just what he was going to do, but why it would be good for them. So I always think that's a bit of reassurance. But having this, full moon right on his nodes, right as he's taking office, is just like, whoa. And with all those out of bounds planets saying, I'm going to do things differently. Yeah,
This makes me
amazing.
think I'd like to compare him to Fiorella LaGuardia sometime.
Mm.
I bet there are some similarities here.
I don't know
So,
much about LaGuardia, not being from this country. Obviously, there's an
right.
airport named after.
No, 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 no.
No,
No, no, no, no, no. He was
no.
a longtime mayor who really
Mm.
connected with people.
Right, and he does. He's a person of the people. He really is. They love him. The crowd was huge for his inauguration, and joyful. Apart from Eric Adams, mostly. Although I don't even saw him smile. But yeah, I think it's a positive change. I don't think, and obviously he's worked in the system, so he knows kind of how the structures and the finances and all that kind of thing goes. So I think he's got ideas, really strong ideas. They're not just big ideals of how to work them. So mhm,
Well, with the
yeah,
North Node in Capricorn,
Capricorn.
practicality is
Hmm.
what he's all about, actually.
Yeah, yeah. And just looking at his chart on his own, in the moon in Aquarius is quite practical too, really. It's got big ideas, but it can pull all the pieces together. It's And he's got good strong Virgo in his second
Hmm.
house as well. So he's definitely got realistic plans, I think. And whether he'll be able to do them with against all the opposition, who knows? But maybe if he only manages to do part of it, it will help um, working people in New York.
Should we look at the full moon chart and then apply it to the US?
Yeah. So let me just swap them around. So this is the actual full moon chart. So it's almost like the chart of the USA, pretty much. It's 3 degrees off the ascendant. So, but anyway, there's many things similar, but but the angles of the midheaven's different. What would you like to say about it? Just
I would like to draw everyone's attention to the bottom left, and notice how many bodies are in the sign of Capricorn,
mm-hmm,
traveling in a great cluster. The th-
mm-hmm,
the the inner planets are all in the same sign. So Mercury, uh, thought, communication, how our minds work, what we're talking about. Venus, how we get along with each other, how we're interacting, our approach toward money and what we desire and value. And
mm-hmm,
Mars, how we actually make anything happen. They're all traveling in a cluster, and this cluster, this buddy system, this gang,
mm-hmm,
is going to just move in a group from sign to sign to sign to sign as we go over the next few months. So we are in the beginning stage of everybody focusing on the same thing at the same time. And
mm-hmm,
Capricorn is all of this Capricorn is giving us, or not just inviting, but directing, there we go, our attention to what can we do about our foundations, our infrastructure, what are we building, what are we working on, and it's
mm-hmm,
almost like I say we're building the runway that's going to get us out of the wormhole
mm-hmm,
into the next way of being. So there's been a terrific amount of chaos. Yes, the chaos, the horrors persist, sure, but
mm-hmm,
this is the moment from when Mars entered Capricorn, which was December 15th, from
mm-hmm,
now until the January Capricorn new moon in a couple of weeks. This is the time to look at what you can do about your own situation. And we're all doing that individually and to an extent collectively.
mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing I want to say. I have a lot more to say, but I will
Wait,
pause
well, I
and
just
hand
want
off
to
to you.
say kind of one thing, really, kind of bigger picture to kind of help people to kind of tune in. And I think we've mentioned this before, but Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, they're the last three signs of the zodiac, and they are more collective signs for a start. But also, this means that all these personal planets are moving towards closing cycles with some of these bigger hitting planets, all of them, Pluto, Saturn, and Neptune. And then the lineup we've got after all of this moves into Aries is astounding. And that's the first sign of the zodiac. So I really think we're at kind of the end game of all of this that's happening. Does that mean it'll end exactly as we want it to? But a lot of things are coming to an ending, a lot of cycles. So that's all I wanted to kind of, without going through each one individually.
No. So the other thing I
Mm,
want to add to this is, with so many of those bodies being out of bounds right now,
mm,
and all of them moving toward oppositions to Jupiter,
mm-hmm,
um, everything is like it's hyper focused, everything is huge,
mm-hmm,
but with the full moon counterbalancing by itself all of it, it's bringing an incredible emotionality
mm,
to this calculation that we're all in the midst of.
mm-hmm. And it's almost like all of this is looking at that moon in its own sign and saying, our whole basis of security and stability is just under threat and in big ways, and we keep seeing it more and more. And what we thought was safe, because Cancer is a lot about feeling safe, and it's the home and the family and children. And I just saw that um, our idiot health, whatever he's called, is has withdrawn funding from the American Pediatric Association. It's just, all of these things are just showing us, and we've, with the Capricorn, like Kathy said, it's like, what are we going to do about this, right?
And I will add to that,
mm,
that's an excellent example, but we're now going to be
mm,
a couple of days into the Affordable Care Act,
mm. Yes, of
credits
course, that too.
disappearing and
Yeah.
people seeing what their health care is going to
Mm-hmm.
cost.
Mm-hmm.
SNAP benefits may be changing. We're gonna immediately get a baptism in the personal impact on families and children
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and
And
our own
also,
selves.
the Epstein files still not going to go away.
Oh,
There's Venus in the mix and Moon as well. There was some talk in somewhere in the files of, a baby being witnessed being put to death, basically, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With
I'm not going to go into detail on that because it's quite horrible. But if anybody wants to look, just know it's out there. Anyway, so I'll get the USA chart up and I'll swap them around because this is clearly right hitting the
oops.
USA. Sorry, you want to say something before I?
Yeah, Zoran's there. There we go.
Oh, no, no, no! I was getting to
Oh, you're
down
getting
my
there.
down my list. I got them prepared for recently used. So,
So what does everybody see up there? The full
mm,
moon is on the US sun. So this is a very, who are we? What are we? How do we feel about all this
mm,
moment?
it's. I mean, this is huge, for the US, of course. And all these things, all this Capricorn energy in the first house is our identity and how people see us first. This full moon is a big turning point for this country, I think. Yeah.
And the
Astounding.
moon,
Mercury is almost exactly opposing Venus. Mercury's out
it's
of bounds. Remember, more Epstein files coming out or more news coming out about things. Mm-hmm.
and the
Sorry,
full
go
moon is making a T square to Saturn in Libra in the 10th house. So there could be,
on.
even though we say, how can this be? There could be consequences, ramifications, people demanding, I don't know what, but honestly, what
Mm,
is happening is It's insupportable. Unsupportable. It
Mm,
cannot continue. And things are happening that are, I mean, I think that the executive is going to take a huge hit on a bunch of things. Yes, I don't know how. Just
mm,
that's the astrology. Okay. The astrology is
mm,
uh, emotion
mm,
and rationality both coming at what in the world is going on with our
mhm.
structures, with our institutions, with the courts, with the executive.
I just do another T square.
Oh,
So again, Juno is our kind of sacred contracts with each other, and other contracts too, to be quite honest. So, and there's Chiron. We've just had our Chiron return, and Jupiter is making another T square with that. So for T squares usually kind of force change as well, right? Especially in kind of a mundane chart, and they're quite impactful, really. T squares. Um, you often have to kind of look for an outlet for them, to where to go, but that they are going to force change. So, mhm.
both of these seem to have a lot to, both of those T squares have a piece that involves others. So,
Mm,
you
mm,
know, maybe more overt connecting of dots of various things that have happened and foreign governments.
mm,
There are all kinds of possibilities involving uh, the government of the country whose prime minister was at Mar-a-Lago on New
mm,
Year's Eve. And
mhm,
then, so, I mean, the role of Israel and Russia, I'll just come out and say it. Whatever
mhm,
they've been doing that has been funding or involved or
mm.
whatever. Um,
Because I could tell you there's connections between all that in the Epstein files too. So,
right, right, in the
mhm.
files too. Hmm.
For now, financial connections and
Financial.
all kinds
And
of things.
Jupiter and Cancer in the eighth, that's financial connections, right?
Hmm. And I would like to give a shout out to people who just want to look in the case they missed it. Was his name Stephen Seabolt? Anyway, he was one of the judges in Miss America and Miss Teen America pageants, and he came and did a video. I think it was on Instagram, and said, he said, you need to look there. And he said, follow Billy Bush. If anybody remembers, Billy Bush was who interviewed when he talked about grabbing pussies, right? Excuse me. And what was her name? Nancy O'Dell was the other presenter. He said, start there, go and follow the trail. Something was going on in those pageants, allegedly. And I'm not going to say any more about that. So, that's all related, I think, too. Right. Mm-hmm.
So lots more.
Mm,
The positive spin I have on the Cancer full moon with this lineup
mm,
is it is awakening in us or like
mm.
dunking us in
Oh,
why we do what we do. Like, what do you care about? What are your
mm,
connections? Who do you love? Are you nurtured? Are you nurturing people? Is
mm,
what are you working for? There's got to be a
mm-hmm.
point to all of this striving.
And the moon in mundane astrology, which is really what we're looking at, is the people.
Hmm.
So the moon being on this full moon, with the all of this staring at the moon, is the people going, oh, this is upsetting. This is too much. More and more people, I think, are just going to go, no, 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 can't do this.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we
So be
see
kind
we
to
see
yourself.
people. Hmm. Yeah.
Be kind to other people. And this is, I mean, this is like where your jammies. Where your jammies
Mm.
on the weekend. If you have a
Oh,
stuffed toy, clutch it. I'm a big, big proponent of
oh, me
advocate for
too.
stuffed toys. I have a comfort dragon. That
I think as well, though, it's a really big week to stay in your lane, just to kind of, batten down the hatches a little bit. I think there's going to be a lot of kind of earthquakey energy out there. Both, if you watch Stefan Burns, he's saying the likelihood, he's not predicting it, of bigger physical earthquakes is higher. And I've got a quake app, and there was two 6.0s somewhere yesterday, and I know they're popping off, but also that energy is in the world, right? So you could find people kind of being a bit aggressive and headbutty out there, and I plan on not leaving the house much except for places where I feel comfortable, shall we say.
Could you put the
Mm.
triple conjunction up
Oh,
from like
yeah,
the ninth?
absolutely. Yeah, for the ninth, of
Because
course.
that's when a lot of things are going to crystallize, come to a
Mm-hmm.
head. Every time that there's
Oh,
one of these Casimis, one of these inner planets
mm,
meets with the sun, we just assimilate whatever that is about. It becomes
mm.
very, very clear.
And so this is the one on the ninth, but just a reminder to everybody that Venus and the Sun are conjunct on the 6th. So,
Right.
that period is like two conjunctions, which is huge as well. So, but this is the ninth, where they're all actually at the same degree, 19 degrees. And it's right on the cusp of the second house for the USA, which is again the house of our values and what we value and our worth. So
Resources.
mhm, resources, and it's square to Chiron. It's also, in fact, that's a cardinal grand cross. Okay, let me draw those lines.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Good catch.
hmm Which is also another huge potent change aspect,
So maybe there's an
forcing
attack
change.
on the Federal Reserve. We may there have been plenty of them.
Oh,
Um,
could be, yeah, but women again too. And some of it because both Venus, Mars, and by then Mercury are all invisible to us because they're under what's called under the beams of the sun. Venus is actually behind the sun, so is Mercury because of how their cycles work. But so a lot of this is going to come out from behind something as well, I think.
oh,
Mm-hmm,
yes, you're
mm-hmm,
right. You're right.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Well,
I'm sure they've got a lot more, well, millions more files to release anyway. But not just them. There's, just seeing these scattering news reports, and they obviously released the Jack Smith test. What do you call it? Right on late on New Year's Eve to try and bury it. Doesn't work that way these days. So.
well, yeah, and that's an interesting playing out of Pluto in Aquarius, of
mm,
power going lateral and involving
mm,
technology, because
mm,
when these drops are made, people are going and they're grabbing everything and putting it in databases and making them
mm,
searchable and spreading links around, and
mm,
just ordinary people are taking it upon themselves to
mm.
dive through all of this stuff. So instead of it overwhelming people, it's being spread to this gigantic hive of researchers.
Oh, I've just noticed one other aspect on that day. The moon will have moved to Libra by then, be right at the top of the chart, and is making an air unbroken flow trying to the US South Node and Folar switches. Lid comes off.
Oh, and it's sick. Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
I
Lid
know.
comes
Well,
off.
and it's actually a grand trine, air grand trine. Shocking news, shocking things coming out. So, like I said, it's kind of earthquake energy, but I don't, I mean, like some of this is going to like really rattle uh, people, all of us. But I think we need to be rattled to actually do something about it, right?
And this might rattle the institutions that are in a
Oh,
position to do
mm,
something
yeah.
about
hmm
it.
hmm Yes. And there's not many, that can do it. I actually had a long chat with a friend of mine who's our committee person to the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, and we talked about how we could, you know, encourage, shall we say, the DNC to come out with a stronger fight against all of this because they're not. And he said, well, the trouble is we kind of have no mechanism because we're not in power to actually remove him at this point. So it's going to take some other pieces to come in, right? So it's
Well,
all very well filing articles of impeachment, but they're not going to go anywhere at the moment. So
My sense is that that's not what's going to do it.
no, I don't think so either. Because people
But I
don't
am
always
resolute that it is happening. So
oh, I'm
I
it's
remain as
happening.
resolute that it's
It's
happening.
happening. But I think a lot of people don't understand how little actual power the Democrats have in the current um, administration to actually do something. So they're doing what they can in the committees and things, some of them anyway. Yeah. So, yeah.
So strap yourself in for next week. Pay attention to
Oh,
the ground beneath your feet. What can you do to
definitely.
shore up, clean up your own little world, your own
Mm,
little part of reality? All the little cleaned up parts of reality are banding together and building.
mm.
It's like we're all holding hands, like the Who's in Whoville. And
Oh, I actually wanted to pull a card for everybody just for this week because it's a huge week with these out of bounds and full moon and everything. And we've got the goddess of discs, which is Pentacles as well. Sorry,
excellent.
God of discs, God of discs. That's actually
All that,
Dionysus in this
all
deck,
that
which
Capricorn. Ooh.
it's yeah, but Dionysus is kind of like the devil in a way. He's but that means laughing at what bedevils you, which is the Capricorn card. Capricorn can really kind of have that wry humor instead of like going and curling in a fetal position and going we're doomed. It can find something to kind of poke fun at it and go, is this really actually, are we really doomed? I don't think we are. So there you go.
I don't either.
It's also about finding some joy, Dionysus. So do that
Right.
as always. Bye, everybody.